What's going on YouTube? How's everybody today? Understood. So today we're going to talk about Alice Coltrane's Journey to Satchidananda. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It was released originally in 1970. This is a 1997 Impulse Records reissue. I discussed this record a little yesterday and we were talking about Om just because they had similarities. It's because there is some tambura playing and like a lot of East Indian influence on the Om record in question. Alice Coltrane used to be married to John Coltrane. This album was released 3 years after his death. I guess it was 3 years after his death. It was inspired by the teachings of this guy called Swami Satchidananda, who was this East Indian philosopher, religious teacher. He was also called a spiritual master. I don't know how he can be a spiritual master, but he was also a yoga master. And he preached a lot about selfless service, yoga, enlightenment, and all that. He was a really old guy. This guy was born in like 1914, and he was some sort of like, you know, guru about like endless love and unbiased love and stuff like that. Alice Coltrane was born in 1937. Her birth name was Alice MacLeod. She was born in Detroit, Michigan. She died in 2007 from respiratory failure. She was a jazz pianist, harpist, organist, composer, wife, mother. But yeah, the whole reason I got into this album is because I was working at a record store and we used to have a jazz room that was segregated from the rest of the record store. So we'd have like rock, pop, metal, country, electronic music all in one room, and then just have jazz and blues and like classical in this other room. And the only person in that room was a guy, well, I'm not going to say his name, some old guy. And, you know, he'd have days off, so on those days off, one of us geeks would have to go in there and cover them, and no one was really eager to go in there because the room was usually in disarray, usually unorganized, and a lot of, like, incoming stuff and outcoming stuff wasn't, like, plugged into the computer yet and shelved alphabetically. It was just a mess, and we'd have to talk to and answer phone calls from jazz people and classical music people, and we're like, we don't know anything about jazz music. But I was always kind of eager to work in there just because I could go play around and find some weird jazz music and blues music. I found out about like Herbie Hancock and like R.L. Burnside, and I found about this one like pretty much early in my career there, and I really enjoyed it. It had all this kind of drony tambura playing and harps and like this cool stand-up bass kind of sound, and this guitar thing called an oud or oud was being played. And yeah, it had this very trippy, existential, very laid-back kind of cosmic jazz kind of feel to it that I really liked right away. Very chill album. I enjoyed how it just had all these kind of like smooth, sweeping rhythms, and like how everything was kind of loose and sounded kind of improvised, and like the interplay between all the instruments and stuff like that. It was very meditative. Kind of like had its very reflective mood, very open music, but also it was like very you know, accessible for music that's about, you know, realms of Shiva and like, you know, incorporating North African jazz music and blues and Indian music and stuff like that. It's very good. I really liked it. It sounds great. And it's also cool because Sun actually got inspired on their album Monoliths and Dimensions for their song Alice was actually inspired by Alice Coltrane. And another artist I really like, Flying Lotus, is actually her nephew. But yeah, pretty cool. Very powerful stuff. Has a lot of depth. It's definitely very engaging. Very trippy to listen to. Has a lot of cool sounds, cool instruments, a lot of playful exchanges between everyone playing. Pharoah Sanders plays soprano sax. I actually have some Pharoah Sanders on vinyl. So yeah, very cool. Very awesome album. If you don't know a lot about jazz, if you're anything like me, to totally get into this without having to understand, like, you know, complex musical structures and module music and stuff like that, jazz standards. Like, I don't know anything about that stuff still, and I can still enjoy it just because it sounds wonderful. Artwork's pretty neat. It's got some pictures of Alice Coltrane there, just in some sort of garment. I don't know. It's got more on the inside here. Got a little story about her stopping in Bombay and the teaching of Satchidananda and his endless love and all that kind of stuff, and talking about her husband. There's a guy playing the oud, what was his name? Vishnu Wood. And there's the tambura player there. Very cool instrument. So just the bass player, the drummer. There she is again playing her harp. Yeah, lots of sweeping rhythms, very, very playful, very, very colorful, very vibrant music. You don't have to be a hippie to enjoy this, but it probably helps. But yeah, I really, really liked it. I was really happy I found it. Originally released in 1970. Alice Coltrane, Journey in Satchidananda. Cool little jazz record.